Well, I'm coming to you with a bit of breaking news. President Biden did sign the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 into law this evening. Now, you're watching this the next morning, so I guess it would have been last night this was signed into law. Now, I think we can all agree that the title of this bill is pretty terrible because it has nothing to do with inflation. But politics aside, which we will not be talking about politics in this video, we're going to dive into the details of this bill, and there's two things I want to cover today. First and foremost, I'm going to give you an overview of what the final language of this bill looks like and what you should expect as far as tax credits go. On the other hand, there's a number of dates in this bill that have different implications depending on the situation that most concerns you. So there's a lot of things to consider in this bill, and I want to break those down into two separate areas to make it as clear as possible. Now, I myself am not immune from making mistakes, but there is a lot of misinformation out there, and I have spent countless hours scouring through these bills as they've been updated over the last year. So I feel pretty good about the information I'm going to share with you tonight. Now, if anything does change, of course, I'll update that here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you're in the know as soon as those updates happen. So let's start by diving into this bill and see exactly what we're looking at. Of course, this is still a 10-year bill, starts after December 31st of 2022. This is not a retroactive bill, but it does have implications for cars this year that qualified for the previous bill, which we will talk about in a moment. This bill obviously then goes from 2023 to 2032, and when we look at the credits as a whole, there's three qualifying factors. First and foremost, it must be assembled in North America. That is the first qualifier. If it's not, does not qualify for any credits. Now, if it is indeed assembled in North America, here are the two things that matter in order to get the full $7,500 tax credit. First, the car must have its battery components made in North America. By 2024, 50% of the battery components must be made by North American components. Now, this does get a little bit complicated, but I'll talk about those dates again later. That 50% target goes up 10% per year thereafter until the final target of 100% North American made by 2029. Now, meeting that guideline gets you half the credit, so $3,750. The other $3,750 is having the minerals that go into the battery also from North America. It must be either U.S. mined material or from a free trade agreement partner with the United States, or it must be recycled in North America. So those are the qualifying factors for the minerals. Now, this requirement starts at 40% by 2024 and increases 10% per year until the final target of 80% by 2027. The MSRP caps have not changed at $80,000 for vans, SUVs, and trucks, and $55,000 for others. Now, the classification for these vehicles is based on the Secretary's decision in alignment with the EPA on classification of cars. So as an example, the Tesla Model Y is considered a small SUV and would fall under that $80,000 cap. The income caps are at that new lower levels of $150,000 for individuals and $300,000 for joint filers. There is, of course, this new EV credit for used cars. It is up to $4,000 or 30% of the purchase price, whichever is less, for a used EV that is at least 2 years old and cannot exceed $25,000 in price. There are a couple of conditions that are associated with this. First and foremost, it must be purchased by a dealer. It cannot be purchased from an individual. In addition, this is tracked by the VIN and can only be used once. You must be the second registered owner of this vehicle. The income caps on those used credits are $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for joint filers. This is a refundable credit, and it eventually will be a point of sale. But it states very clearly that in the first year, this will be at time of filing your taxes. The second through 10th year, it will be at point of sale. So this will not be a point of sale rebate like we had previously reported, at least for the first year, but it is refundable 100%. There's only two things that matter. The vehicle that you're purchasing qualifies for the credits, and your income does not exceed the caps in place. Those two are the only qualifying factors, and you will get 100% of the available credit for that specific car. So you can have no income. You can be on Social Security. It does not matter. Your tax liability does not matter. You will qualify for the maximum credit for that car, assuming your income meets these caps. So that is the basic outline of this bill. but there's a lot of dates in here and they all have implications. So I want to do a quick run through of these dates to help you better understand what are some of these new implications. First and foremost, this is for sales of new qualified vehicles after December 31st of 2022, which further reinforces this is not a retroactive credit. If you bought a car that does not qualify today but would under these new rules and you bought it in 2022, it is not going to help you out. The North American final assembly requirement starts today. That started as soon as this was enacted. So some cars that do qualify yesterday no longer qualify if they're not assembled in North America. The per vehicle dollar limitation will happen after the proposed guidance from the Secretary of Treasury provides that input. So that could be any time between now and the end of the year, December 31st of 2022. The transfer of credit talks about how these credits will be realized by you, the taxpayer. And it talks about these credits will be prepaid to dealers so that they can recognize that credit at time of sale. However, this does not go into effect until after December 31st of 2023, which means if you buy a car in 2023, you are going to realize this at time of filing your taxes, not at the time of purchasing the vehicle. So this is a very crucial detail. The first year, it will be at time of filing your taxes, year 2 through 10 at time of purchase. The 200,000 vehicle cap will be going away, but not until after December 31st of 2022, which only impacts Tesla and General Motors at this point in time. So they wouldn't qualify for anything until after then anyways, when that cap is officially removed. There is a transition rule in here, and this is for people who purchased a car that would qualify for the previous tax bill that was in place, but do not qualify for this new one, or may get more or less credits in the new bill versus the old one. If you purchased a car or you ordered a car and have quote unquote a binding contract, you are able at time of delivery decide if you are going to take the old bill or the new bill at time of delivery. So if your car's not going to come until 2023 and it may not qualify for the new credits, you can elect to recognize the old rules and then have one based on your tax liability. And to further clarify, what this means is if you want to buy a car this year that qualifies for the old tax bill, and you want to get that car next year, or it won't deliver till next year, in order to get the old credits, that car has to be assembled in North America. The only date that matters for cars that you're buying right now is it has to be assembled in North America starting today. So there's maybe 10 or 20 cars on the market right now that are assembled in North America that do not meet the new regulations with battery components or materials that would qualify for up to $7,500 based on your tax liability that you can still get this year, Rivian being one of those. You do not have to worry about the MSRP caps or anything like that as long as you buy it this year, even if you don't take delivery till next year, assuming the car itself is assembled in North America. So it's very important that you have a binding contract. Now, Rivian did send out notes to customers to accept and forfeit some of their order fee as non-refundable in order to get a binding contract. You need to have something very concrete that says a binding contract for purchase. The critical mineral requirement of 40% and the battery component value of 50% are both in effect after the proposed guidance by the Secretary, but before January 1st of 2024. This is a really important detail because that does not mean these rules go into effect immediately starting January 1st of 2023. What really matters here is when the Secretary provides guidance on how they're going to do this. So if they don't provide guidance until summer of 2023, there's a lot of cars that will not qualify for this tax credit that will have a window where they will qualify for this tax credit. So this does not go into effect. The battery components of 50% and the mineral components of 40% do not go into effect until the Secretary provides guidance. Now, the Secretary could provide guidance almost immediately, but until they do, this rule will not go into effect for both of those requirements for 3750. Now, for the other pieces where the Secretary guidance is required, that guidance is due no later than December 31st of 2022. So for all the other rules where the Secretary needs to put in place how they're going to do certain things, December 31st of 2022. For adjusted gross income, I get questions about this a lot. So here's how it works. It is the lesser of your adjusted gross income for the taxable year you buy the car in, or the preceding year. So if you buy a car in 2023, it will be the lesser adjusted gross income of 2023 or 2022. So it gives you the opportunity, if your income did go up, to recognize the lower of the two if you're right on the border. So that may actually help quite a few people out. We'll just have to see. So that's the overview of these tax credits that are now officially signed into law. Forget politics for a minute. Forget whether you like or don't like these credits. That is the situation that we're looking at. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bearded Tesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.